Hey guys, Ethereal Light Art here. Welcome to my YouTube channel. If you're new to this channel and you like light painting, long exposure photography, or creativity, you're in the right place. Please subscribe and like, share with your artist friends, leave me a comment, I do appreciate them. Thanks for joining me on this journey.
All right, everyone, welcome to the next episode of Dude, Where's My Flashlight? We have the most honored guest, Trevor Williams, aka TDUB, a pioneer of light painting, one of the godfathers of this art form. Buddy, TDUB, I'm so glad to have some time with you today. How are you? You're calling from Japan. Good morning, sir. How are you?
Good. Great to be here. Yeah, nice to be able to catch up and honored to be a guest.
You know, it's just amazing talking to somebody that has so much experience and years in this art form and photography in general. I've got so many questions and things to talk to you about. I want to start off with Light Junkies. You're the founder member of this amazing photo hub. It's still going today. A lot of people are posting it. I know I tag it in honor of you when I put out some art. And can you talk to us a little bit about Light Junkies and take us back to the glory days when it all started and kind of like the sentiment of the community then? You know, how people posted, what people said, how people collaborated together. That's kind of what I want to start this episode with.
Sure. So I was a big film shooter for a long time. And then I was able to I sold my DJ equipment and bought a digital camera. I had two small children, so that DJing just was sort of fading out, going out to clubs, and so that was dying off. So I'll just sell the kit and finally buy a digital camera, and of course that opened up so many doors about you can just play around so much and stuff. So I stumbled across light painting, and the more I played with it, you start to look around on Flickr, and there was just no sort of central place. There was a couple of groups. I think there was another group that had, I think, around 9,000 members at the time, which was quite a big group at that time to have 9,000 members. But it was very it wasn't moderated, and it was really loose. It was just some like random light painting, but there was a lot of like car trails and just sort of general night photography.
Yeah.
So I thought I wanted something more specific and wanted to connect with some of the other people that were dabbling in the art around the world. So we made Light Junkies. It's funny because when you just get into it, it's so addictive. Like you just want to. I mean, you only have at night. There's a certain time limit you have generally, right? Well, I did because I had two kids. I couldn't play around with my camera during the day much, so I would go out at night by myself and mess around. But of course, you got to work the next morning, so you can't be out all night. So there's this addictiveness that you almost got something, but then you had to go home. So you're eager to get back out the next night and see if you could get it done. And so there's that sort of addictiveness. And so I was trying to find other people that had that same sort of feeling. And then it just sort of snowballed from there. And it became like a really good, right off the bat, I presented it as a more of a community, like a place to share and show your tools and stuff like that. It was really cool at the beginning. It was just so open, and people were posting things, and I had a couple prints sent to me from different people just to say thanks, and it was just such a instant global community. So it was really cool. It was just 24 hours, just because you have people all over in Europe and in North America, and it just
I mean, I can't even imagine you as the curator of this, just seeing these photos just fall in on, just get posted and posted and posted, and you're just like
Yeah.
looking at these like, wow, these people are so creative, and
Yeah.
it's like there was a sense of freshness, a sense of like burst of creativity that
Mm.
people were not necessarily trying to one up each other, but they were always just trying to be a little bit different and like, hey, look what
Yeah.
I did over
Yeah.
here, and look what I did over there,
Yeah.
and very open about sharing their process and their
Yeah.
method. And
Yeah.
I think that's
I mean, there
beautiful.
were such few things back then that you would say, "Oh, this is so and so's idea." But I mean, yeah, there's so much that's all lost that you don't, you know what I mean? Like, but there was such a little few things to do back then. It was just, but people didn't mind back then, right? So it was like you didn't need credit or whatever. It was just everyone just had fun and pushed the limit, and it was just such a new thing that
It
it was.
was.
Yeah. Yeah.
No, it's awesome, man. It's awesome. And it's to think about maybe 10 or 12, 15 years ago from where it was and where it's kind
Mhm.
of grown as far as just the tools and the technology, but even just social media. And that has really kind of changed the game a lot.
Yeah.
And I know you've kind of maybe separated from social media and light painting a little bit.
Yeah.
And can you talk about social media with you? I know I've seen some amazing photos, which I want to get into,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
as far as light painting,
So Flickr went through some changes and it started to tail off.
yeah,
And at a similar time that I was picked up by Getty Images for stock photos. So then rather than post it on Flickr, I'd rather monetize it. So that's why what I posted on social media started to die off because I learned early that you can monetize this stuff pretty easily. So
yeah,
rather than give it away or just put it up there, it had a value. So why not, put it somewhere that it's going to make me money? So that's generally what slowed down posting to social media. And
yeah,
partly, I think my age, I'm 45 now. So I think we're just at that borderline of being really interested in social media. I mean, I do spend a lot of time looking and messaging with friends, but in terms of, hey, here's my lunch today, or uh,
yeah,
looks cute, maybe I'll take it down later or whatever. You know what I mean? That's all lost on me. So
yeah,
I sort of strayed away from posting a lot. And what was I going to add? My current business now is all like is mostly word of mouth. Like,
mhm,
so I only have a website just to validate my business. But I mean, I rarely update it. I don't have any work that people say, "Oh, I found your website and decided to contact you." I mean, these are all, I have a list of clients, and any work that comes in generally is related to that current list of clients that they're collaborating companies or whatever, or people that have heard from word of mouth. So
yeah,
I don't rarely get work that comes in through I saw your Instagram or your Facebook page or your website. I mean, it's just, to be honest, when you see all those people, these photographers pumping out content or this stuff on their social media,
yeah,
that's their income line.
yeah,
They rarely post any work,
yeah,
right? So I'm a photographer, and then they're reviewing stuff and going on. But I'm always thinking, what did you shoot? What's your work? Show me your work. I don't
yeah,
care about what you think of the camera or anything else. So it really turned into this. That was the gig, just presenting yourself online as something.
yeah.
That was their income stream. It just seemed a strange thing for me, and it's probably due to my age that I sort of missed the boat, I think, a bit on that.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I mean, I'm 42. I feel like I've got a love-hate relationship with it as well.
Yeah.
You know, I think it's a little bit, it takes some time, and I
Mhm.
think my time is better possibly spent doing other creative things than
Yeah.
that. I'm
Yeah.
also,
Exactly.
which I think that we're going to get into a little bit later in the podcast, is, possibly monetizing this and
Yeah.
talking
Yeah.
about taking your art as a hobbyist into that next level.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I don't want to quite get there quite yet, but You know, that is a big thing. And I believe that after a couple years, after you kind of cut your teeth and really fail 1,000, 1,000,000 times and get back up and you keep going at it, you get to a point where you're like, okay, I've done a lot of things and now it's time to maybe get rewarded or compensated for my effort.
So for you to utilize social media, you're working locally, right? You're depending on connecting with people in an area that will then know that you're in their region and they found you on Instagram or Facebook and you're in their local and they can connect and maybe hire you. Where here I have a language barrier where I'm not going to post in English and expect Japanese people to pick it up and then want to come and hire me. I could post it in Japanese, but it's never going to be perfect and it just comes across as not professional. So that's probably a large factor in me not utilizing social media for business now.
You know, and then also for me, it seems that there comes a point in an artist or any artist, and that doesn't matter what field, photography, I talk about this, just creativity in general, where it almost seems that social media is just a validation of you as an artist. And it's like once you don't need that validation, it's almost like you're tethered to a mothership. And it's like I need to drink from this like ego kind of like validation, like, oh cool, I've got all these people really liking my stuff. And it's like, well, once you know that you have good things, then you start to kind of sit back and be like, is it really worth my time? Should I be monetizing this? And should I be spending my effort and my time, number one, creating more, right? And two, monetizing my time and spending my time a little bit more worth it. So I struggle with that. Something that I am in constant flux with. I ebb and flow just like everything everyone does.
There was a point I struggled with, like, I sort of lost the fun of it because I'd put a lot of work in it, go out and make all these tools and go out and take these big pictures, you know, that took a lot of time. But then I just didn't want to post things where I was just pissing around with friends or something. You know what I mean? Because it didn't meet the bar. The bar got raised. My personal bar was raised where I didn't feel it fit my brand to post just me writing whatever, Happy New Year or something. You know what I mean? Like those stupid pissing around with friends things. It just didn't meet the bar what I normally posted. And that's purely my fault, or that's purely the way that I shouldn't have put that on myself, right? That I sort of took the fun out of my... You know, is Taki Shack. That guy has never lost the fun. He posts awesome stuff, but he'll post the most benign stuff. It's always reeks of just pure enjoyment. And so I've always been jealous that he's been able to just pump it out in such volume, and it always screams just joy and that he's never lost the fun. You know what I mean? Like, so I really admire that.
I admire it too. It's a good secret. It's something that, like I said, I struggle with. It's a longevity thing, you know. I mean, like something that, I mean, you've been doing this for how long? When was the first time you actually waved a light?
2008, I think.
Okay. Yeah. And what kind of tools? You mentioned you made some of your own tools. Is there any like funky tools or any kind of weird stuff that you made back then that you were using?
Back then, it was getting like decorative battery powered like LED things, like lights, and then like soldering them to like. So this would be like I got a bunch of these strips of 10 LED lights that were battery powered. They were like decorative lights, and I soldered, I think 6 of them together to make, and put 60 of them around a hula hoop.
Okay.
So we drill into the hula hoop and then put all these lights in, and then connected it with 2 9-volt batteries.
Okay.
So these were the tools back then, but now, I mean, people are doing crazy stuff now.
Yeah.
But,
homemade and professionally made. I mean,
you
know, and honestly, with YouTube now, that's pretty prominent. There's a lot of tutorials out there, not only how to light paint, but how to build your own tools, and that's really been the number one, I think, driving factor of why this art form is growing so exponentially. And this is another one. Is this from the same tool?
Same hula hoop,
Cool. You know, and I love this creativity of something with a simple tool, and you've got one solid line, but look at the placement and look at the movement of this photo. it's spectacular. You know, I mean, this just
Uh-huh.
the backlighting. I mean, everything goes well together. Yeah, I just some of these older photos are awesome. Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
and tons of fun. You know.
Yeah. For sure.
I mean, check out this one. I mean, talk about putting some magic into an already beautiful scene. I mean,
Yeah.
that's kind of what light painting is to me, is actually just not necessarily changing the scene. I mean, I do illustrate from scratch. I do a full illustration of the scene by my pencil, by my drawings. But sometimes I really love to be, especially if I'm in a beautiful, prominent place, I love to just add to it.
This was a big thing for me, that it was always about the environment. So I would find somewhere and then want to supplement it. Like, they had these crazy, amazing temples, like 1,000-year-old in Japan, and people take them for granted, right? So I kind of thought if we could show it to them in a new. I came here from Canada, and then I was blown away all by this stuff, but it just didn't make sense that people didn't really have any interest in it. So I thought if I could show it to them in a new light, you know, that maybe they would see how special it is, right? So
and TDUB, can you speak? Do you actually still light paint? I mean, I know you're probably out there light painting. How often do you light paint?
a little bit, and all those techniques are still used in like just general night photography. So I did a seminar. I wouldn't say it's like a workshop with not disabled, but a place for different children. So people across the spectrum and whatnot. I did that a few months ago, and it was. They have these sort of ateliers that are designed for different needs children that would go after school, that and they're just sort of art-based after school programs. So they're very free. The kids can do whatever, and they want to paint, they can paint. They want to draw, they can draw. If they want to bang on an instrument, they can do that. And yeah, so I did a workshop there, which was pretty fun.
Amazing. And did you have your light painting gear out? Did you have your camera out?
Yeah. So that was
You know, there's nothing more special than actually putting your paintbrush or putting some lights in a child's hands or anyone, and watching them and watching their face and watching their reaction when they first see the back of the camera and realize that they just made magic. You know, I mean,
yeah, for sure.
I mean,
And it's such a lot of the kids there that don't communicate were they after we got lots of good feedback from the staff there that's saying that this kid has not spoken to anyone in months, but here he was on this day, I mean, chatting with everybody and collaborating, and so they were really blown away at the positive power of this unique experience.
Absolutely. You know, and I've mentioned it on previous episodes of the podcast of how therapeutic light painting or just creativity is in general, no matter, like I said, what form of art you're doing, just being able to express yourself and being able to create something and then look at it after you've made it is something quite special, and it's part of the human experience. And I think that's what you're referring to with these kids, and to be able to touch them at an early age, especially if they have special needs and they're not accustomed to being socialized and creating magic like this. What an amazing gift that is.
Yeah.
I love it. I'm going back. We're going back through the history books here, and you know, lots and lots and lots of orbs are being done these days. You know, you throw them through social media, you see a bunch of orbs. I love this one because it's actually lifted off the ground a bit, like it's hovering.
Yeah.
Most people.
So this was, I think, it was Dan Leonardo had posted the first orb.
Okay.
And he came onto the scene, and everyone was like, "What the fuck? Who is this guy? Just banging out the craziest stuff." So I got to try these orbs, and everyone does them a different way. Actually, well, I know of 4 techniques that people draw with orbs. One is the spinner.
Yep.
One is the arm spinner.
Okay. Yep.
It just rotating around your shoulder.
Yep.
And which I was doing with sparklers.
Okay.
So, and then I made a PVC rig. So it was just a I should have brought it. It's a pole and a handle, and it's just like a windmill made out of PVC pipe.
Okay.
So then I would put lights on that and just spin that and rotate around it.
Cool.
And that would create these orbs. So I had made that. And the other method is a stick, basically, with a light on each end or one end, but balanced, and they're just rotating it like a baton, right?
Yeah. Yeah, with a middle pinhole that rotates around the center radius.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
So there's
and
no,
I've also seen some people use a drill.
stick, just a stick that they're rotating in their own hands, held by nothing else.
Okay.
Which
cool.
is, yeah, I don't want to say. Well, that was, I think, the method of the first orbs.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, and then we see a lot of in your work, we see lots of double orbs or triple orbs where you're actually putting a shape inside of a shape.
Yeah, because then you get to add all those things onto the stick, and then it's like stacking paper, right? So as long as you laid down the orb first, if you did a stencil after, that orb lines are already on the sensor. So so now it appears that the bird is inside the cage because it was done after. So if I'd done the stencil first, it would have been out of the cage.
Wow.
And that's not completely speaking. I mean, if it depending again on the brightness of things, but generally,
yeah,
if things are exposed correctly, it would appear that way.
Amazing. Well, you know what? And this is a beautiful image that speaks to that right there. I mean,
yeah. I always try to have a bit of a story involved in it. So,
you know, and speaking of the story, you know, let's extrapolate on that. Let's talk about that a little bit. You know, how important is telling the story to you? You know, especially in light painting. I know it in your photography, in your portrait photography. Anyone that looks at your book of work can definitely see that not only the expertise and professionalism is there, but the story is also there. You know, TDUB, can you talk about putting a story and telling a story with your art?
Yeah, I mean, I was like street photography. I used to always carry around little film cameras in my pockets, like little Lomos, or I had a little Leica CL. I always had a little film camera in my pocket, and I enjoyed just snapping people and stuff. But those are the ones that told little stories, you know, like you kind of start to imagine what the people in the photo were doing, and I just like to tell a story. I never really enjoyed landscape photography, except for at night. I don't mind going out and shooting stars because it's not necessarily about the photograph. It's more about the experience of just hanging out under the stars with friends. So that's what I enjoy more than probably. It's not about just the photographs. So I mean, there's that experience of going out with friends in the night, going up somewhere remote under the stars, hanging out in a chair where your camera clicks away, is the draw. But just to go out and chase down landscape photos has never been a big thing for me.
Yeah.
It just seems to be missing something. Like I don't know. I don't know. I'm not knocking landscape photographers, and I'm sure they have a similar excitement of really chasing down the good light in the morning or the evening or all the planning that goes in. But I don't have the patience for that. So
it does take some patience, you know. Photography in general, it takes some patience, and especially long exposure photography, you know, getting the settings right. Technically, it's a very challenging thing. And then when you throw art involved, now you're actually an artist on top of a photographer, and it just exponentially gets more challenging, which I think for the veteran light painters and for those who are just coming into this art form is actually the draw. If you don't like a challenge, then you might not be you might not like light painting because it's a challenge. It's very difficult to get all of this right in one, single exposure.
Yeah, for sure.
And so, you talk about the beautiful stories, or there's a 1,000 words or even more from every image. I know that's an old Chinese proverb, but when you tell a story, it's almost like you want to talk to the bird, or you want to know if the bird's going to get out of the cage, or if it's another photo, it's like, who was here once, who walked this, were there samurais in the courtyard? I mean, like, you just want to envision something else. And I think all of your art sort of leads the viewer to say, what was next, or what was before that? And I think that really comes through in your art.
And look at it. It needs to have a story. That was a thing, almost like I mean, you're just looking through photos. If it's just okay, yeah. But if you needed something to captivate someone, and so to me that was putting a bit of a story in it, maybe a human element or something.
All the above, all the above, and we talk about the background of just sitting under the stars and listening to your camera just click away as you sip on some coffee or a beer, your beverage of choices, and just laugh, and just catch up with friends, have that human experience. One of the things I want to kind of go into is these guys, and let's talk about photographing fireflies, and these are the ones obviously on land, and I'm assuming this photo was in Japan.
Yeah. All the fireflies are done in Japan.
Okay. Can you talk to me about photographing fireflies and just how amazing this is?
This is also really fun, and it's about the experience of going out with friends. And often it's hot, like humid hot.
Okay.
And there's like crazy bugs, like big bugs and snakes and wild boars, and it's just not a very comfortable environment. But it's fun to go out with friends, and for some reason it's enjoyable to be out in that sweating and set it up. And they're just magical, like these fireflies. Like the whole experience of being there is just really nice to capture. It's later on at night, so you'll be in this forest, and the whole thing just in sync is just flashing around you. It's just really strange.
I mean, it sounds just the most magical thing ever. And I'm from Portland, Oregon, on the west coast of the USA, and so I never actually even seen a firefly until I went and traveled here. And then I saw them, and I did one light painting. I tried to capture them. They weren't heavy like this, so there was a few streaks. There wasn't anything near this quality, but what a magical experience. And to share that with your friends and to see the buzzing of excitement, I mean, amazing.
Yeah.
I mean, and then you put in a human form experiencing the magic. And this one almost speaks more to me. Yeah. Can you talk to me about this image? Is this you here or?
No, it's a friend. I was doing the light behind him, so yeah. So I mean, it was just it's fun going out, but then you start to. I mean, I've been doing this for like 10 years, so you start. Maybe we should try something new, or something. So we'll put a couple of these in.
Yeah,
and next year the season's finished this year, but next year I'm going to aim to make it look like they're pouring out of the guy. I think is going to be what I'm going to try.
Awesome. And would you be able to? Can you capture them? Can you collect them and then maybe put them in a jar and then see them come out of the jar? Is that the idea?
Yeah. To me, I think it was a bit of a not to sound rude, but it's a bit of a. I've seen a few images like that, and it seems to be the first image or idea that comes to anybody's head is that let's capture them in a jar and see the amazement of them coming out. Maybe a little light on the face and stuff like that. But so I've seen a few. I wanted to avoid my first initial idea, and let's go a little deeper. And so, but the whole forest is pitch black. So even images that don't have a human element like this, I use all like light painting techniques because I have to light up quite a big forest without having any visible light, like light sources.
Yeah.
And it to look like natural, like moonlight or diffused moonlight on a cloudy.
Yeah. So
depending on the moon cycle, a lot of it's just if there's a full moon and cloudy weather is the best time. But if there's partial cloud or there's no moon, you could be in a completely pitch black thing. So I use LP techniques to light up the whole forest. So I think that previous picture you showed would have been a pitch black forest.
Okay, cool.
So
and
light you see was put into the scene.
Yeah, and it's amazing how much light painting actually, because I started light painting and then I started dabbling into photography, and I think most photographers are photographers first and then they're light painters.
Yeah.
And so, I'm putting all of my light painting experience into photography and my photography experience back into light painting. And I think they compound each other and they actually just make you a better artist as far as
Yeah.
composition and exposure and you name
100%.
it.
Yeah.
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 I love it. Well, we're talking about fireflies, and one of the first images that I saw of yours, and something that really, really hit home to me was the Weeping Stone series.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
And can you speak on this? I love the name. I guess my first question is, can you just walk us through who you're with and give credit to the team
Yeah.
that helped pull this off?
So I did a lot of light painting under a name called Physics. It was 3 guys. It was Phil Perry and another guy, Okayama Naoya, Japanese guy that I work with, and everyone sort of just Phil had to return to England, and it just we sort of split apart there. No breakup or anything. We just sort of drifted apart. And so with evening, the night photos, it's just whoever's out that night kind of thing. Whoever's around will go out. But the initial Weeping Stone series was shot with a guy called Jonathan Gaglione and another guy, Tim Clemenson.
Yeah.
So these are naturally occurring, very tiny shrimp. Last season we filmed them with a macro lens.
Yeah.
Like actually releasing the bioluminescence. It was such a task because you're with the macro lens, you're seeing such a small area, and your depth of focus is less than a millimeter.
Yeah.
And to get them to release their thing in such a minute space was almost impossible.
Yeah.
It had to be in focus under that little area. So that was a big task. But we filmed enough footage to put a video together. So it was pretty neat.
I mean, it's amazing. And it only happens, I think, in the Pacific Ocean. Is that right? Or a few?
Yeah. I know in Japan, it's mostly towards Western Japan.
Yeah.
And especially around the area I'm in is a big area for them. So you'll find them in Hiroshima and Okayama.
Okayama.
There's the population will come with greater population will come with like bigger ports and bigger pollutants, I guess is the word.
Okay.
So you'll find them less.
Yeah. And my question, after seeing that YouTube video and seeing them excrete their bioluminescence, is it like a squid where they're scared and that's a protection mechanism, or is it just what they do? Or do they die? Does this make them perish?
No.
Okay.
So if they're disturbed, they will release their bioluminescence.
Okay.
But they also, if you were to stand on a rock and look down into the water, you'll see faint ones going. So I don't know if it's a mating thing or what, but they do. You can induce it by disturbing them.
Okay.
And you look at this, and all these are not dying. So we had some comments earlier. You just like killing all of them by pouring them on the rock? No, they live in the sand, in sand and in water. So they'll go in and out of the water with the tide to feed, and they'll come back and bury themselves in the tent. So when we pour them over a rock, we wash them off back into the sand. Yeah. And there's no mass death.
And let them keep mating.
Yes.
Let's hope that they're mating.
Yeah, we capture them first with large containers and using bacon as bait.
Nice.
Yeah.
Well, if you're gonna capture me, it'll probably be with bacon too.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh man. Well, let's go from sea. Let's go back to the land, and actually let's get a little vertical here. Let's talk about rock climbing.
Okay.
TDUB, how long have you been doing this sport?
Probably 5 years.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. Do you see any parallels between rock climbing and long exposure photography?
Well, yeah, because I did a rock climbing light painting that has never been published.
I love it.
It was a 30-meter tall climb,
Okay.
all with, I put a light on each wrist and each foot,
Yes.
and the guy climbed in pitch black without even like a headlamp or anything.
Awesome.
So it was crazy. The idea was to have different climbers climb the same route and then be able to read their movements.
Yes.
And then we did it, and the guy who owned the climbing gym that helped me work on it decided that we probably shouldn't put it online because climbing at night is not really, it's like boating without a life jacket.
Yeah. Yeah.
If you owned a boat company, you wouldn't put videos of yourself on a boat without a life jacket. And that was basically the similar idea, that maybe it's something that we shouldn't promote.
Yeah.
I will send you that picture, and I think it's okay to use. There was one that was an art piece, so I think it's okay to use that in the video. So
Cool.
I'll send you that to post up.
Thank you. Yeah, and we'll make a big disclaimer here, obviously live, that no one should be rock climbing in the dark. We don't advise this at home. So if you do choose to do that, you're on your own accord and safe about it.
All safety protocols were followed. I mean, he was, of course, there was no chance of him falling and dying or anything, or injured.
Yeah. And I did a little bit of rock climbing myself. And mostly indoors. I've done some bouldering outdoors. We have some amazing rock climbing places in the west coast of the USA.
Yeah, for sure.
And so it's a very big community here. It's a very similar community to the light painting community, where it's obviously better with more people. Obviously, you want somebody to belay you. You want a partner there for safety measures, and as well as another second eye. I mean, sometimes you're up there and just like in a long exposure light painting, you kind of maybe get stuck and you're like, oh man, where's the next hold, or what should I do next? Or having that second set of eyes really, really can help make that.
Someone to basically bounce ideas off of, right? And it's the same for both. And again, it's that tight-knit community that passionate about what they're doing.
Yeah, no, I love it, man. I love it. And speaking of your athleticism, is this you? You've got some serious hops.
This is so funny. This is just pissing around. This is so funny. That's Phil.
Okay.
And we're just horsing around, like, we're at this like the old temple, and there's like around out of the frame, there's like people there at the temple like doing this. We're off in a corner doing these dumb pictures. We were just laughing our heads off the whole time. Yeah.
I mean, where do you get hops like this? I mean, this is phenomenal. Were you a high school athlete? Were you a collegiate athlete?
No. The Phil actually had jumped off the rock beside it to make it appear that I had kicked him off the ground, kind of thing.
Nice. Okay. Yeah. Wow. Amazing.
Well, it's just good timing and good camera angles.
And that's a lot of it. And it's honestly, it's kind of just tweaking things. It's like, oh, that looks pretty good, but what if we went a little lower and shot up, or what if we went from the side and shot it at a 45, or especially with lighting, it's like, what if we light it at the 45, or what if we did a full backlighting and did a silhouette? Those are the kind of things I hope that the audience is gleaning from these podcasts is, how can we manipulate their art to just kind of tweak, make it their own fit for them.
You want to know how to make things look dramatic? Look at breaking news photos from high-end agencies.
Okay.
Because that I did some news here for Getty Images as well. I had that's sort of drifted off as they've had staff changes and stuff. So I've sort of turned to more commercial stuff. But there was a few years where I was doing a lot of news work for them and editorial work. And the more I looked into it, you have these dramatic images. But if you were to stand back, it's not that dramatic. It's because they chose a wide-angle lens, or they've used a longer lens to make things. It's a bit dodgy, but they've used creative focal angles to make things look more dramatic.
Yeah.
And they're showing what is happening, but it's not the same focal length as your eyeballs. So, do you know what I mean? So in that sense, it's a little bit off-putting. But then you can then apply that to anything, right? To all your other photography. Say,
No, absolutely.
you get that guy in the Middle East throwing the Molotov cocktail, and his arm looks so long, and it looks so, but it's just a wide angle lens. If you shot it with like a 50, he's probably like throwing like some weird, you know what I mean? Like,
Yes, I do know.
Yeah.
Well, that comes with expertise, and that comes with just playing around and trial and error and trial and error and more trial and error, and
just different focal lengths will give you a different look, and always keep that in mind.
Yeah, absolutely. TDUB, you mentioned something earlier, and I wanted to get back to it. It's something that I really, really want to touch with you on this podcast, is crossing that threshold from a hobbyist into the professional realm. And it's something that I feel like Indiana Jones on the edge of the cliff, after running, and see this long drawbridge where you're like, oh my God, there's 1,000 feet below, and there's critics, and there's self-doubt, and there's courage biting you. And, it's like, if I fall, can you talk about the emotional and everything about crossing that threshold, crossing that bridge, how you did it? Any advice that you would give other artists, maybe in my situation, that are like, hey, this is what I want to do for a career.
Yeah.
I want to monetize this. I want to take that leap. Can you help me?
So for commercial work, that, and currently my whole business plan, or my strategy, has not changed at all. So my first job, I think, was in 2008 for like Kobe Steel, massive company. And I had a friend who was a designer. He was doing some work for them, and they were loading these massive steel things onto a huge ship. There was only 2 of these ships that could carry these pieces in the whole world, and they wanted someone to document it, and they needed some promotional material from it and pictures for insurance. Anyway, he said, just come along, I'll pay you and all that. And I did that job, and then I got more people asking me to do this and that, and then it just snowballed. I've never advertised. It's always work has just sort of generally come to me. Outside of that, commercial work is stock photography. And this is something that a lot of people frown upon stock photography. But so I got in through Flickr I had a Flickr, there was a Flickr Getty thing for a few years. So I got on, and that collection in Getty now is called Moment. So I got in through this Moment program, and I started to make good money, decent money from that. And then they were doing a big sort of, I don't know. There was a presentation by, so Getty Japan invited their top 100 contributors to this special forum in Tokyo, and they asked me to speak. Would you speak there about taking pictures? So I said, sure. So we did a Pecha presentation there. And after, we went for dinner, and they said, do you want a house account? And a house account means that you're one of the few invited photogs to be on their curated sort of team. So they would provide me very in-depth information on what the content gaps are in their media pool, in their collection.
Yeah. And
then that sort of went from there. And then you started, and so now I think, and times have changed a lot now. There's a lot of that information that they didn't provide everyone back then. They would tell a certain few, or they would say next year will be this. I got to be careful. I don't give too much information. Yeah. That before they introduced trends and certain things, they would let some people know and say, shoot this. And then, so there was some content ready in the pool before they released a certain trend or a campaign. Yeah. So that you'd get good sales because there was a limited amount of that content there. Yep. But I think currently now, I think stock photography is a very great way to get into leaning towards a professional career. One, you'll get all sorts of great briefs and specific information on what's selling. Okay. And then that translates into current trends in photography in general. Right? Like, And people look at stock photography as flowers or fruit on a table, or the people take pictures of their favorite parks and hikes they go on, and they don't sell anything, and they complain what a joke this is. But that's not what's selling now. You got to think, who's going to use it? How are they going to use it? Who's going to buy it? Like, who needs a picture of the Grand Canyon? Like, I don't know how many millions, or flowers, or your cat. You know what I mean? No one's going to buy that.
Yeah.
Unless it's like a really crazy, amazing, or interesting picture. But you have to shoot very targeted content. You know, it's a doctor, but is it a white old man doctor, or you know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
Or is it a young female? Is it a diverse? Is it inclusive? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, maybe the dad's taking the daughter to the doctor who's a female. You know what I mean? These are the things you have to think about. Then you'll start making solid money. And if you put in the work, you'll get the return. And then I think it's a good entrance point for professional photography. You'll be able to definitely sharpen up your skills. You'll get insider information on the whole market, on trends and what's happening, on techniques and looks and everything. Yeah. And then you can then start approaching for commercial jobs. I definitely don't recommend faking it till you make it. You can, to a degree, but if you took on a high-end job and you failed to deliver, I hate to use what a fucking waste of money for the company. You know what I mean? They put in all that prep work, putting the brief together, all that stuff, all the meetings and all that time, and then you didn't deliver, you delivered crap. They'd be livid. So just be careful on where you choose to fake it till you make it. I mean, to a degree you can, but you bung a wedding up. I don't do weddings, but I did when I started. If you bung that stuff up, there's no second chance. There's no. So that's one area. So just cut your teeth on something like stock photography, or even things like, there's some sites now, I think you can sell your own stuff, like a Redbubble or something like that. I mean, those are places to start.
And TDUB, can you speak on the emotional fortitude that you need? Because I know when you're a hobbyist and you're out messing around with your friends, like you said, you know, it's for fun, and that click doesn't really matter if it's messed up. You just get it, you know. I mean, can you speak on the difference between a professional set and something that you're just out under the stars faffing around with your friends?
So you have to work under pressure. And you have to know all your gear, and you have to be able to put it up quickly and take it down quickly. I'm talking about lighting equipment or video equipment or whatever. It has to be able to get it up quick and get it down quick. No pissing around saying, where's the cord, or what's this, or people don't wait. And that's one thing. So even I know a few people that practice just putting up their light quick and putting it away, and they time it. Like, this is the kind of things people think about, right? Another one, you have to be super flexible. So you might go, one example is I did some work for a couple hotels. You go there to shoot lifestyle images of their chef. So they tell you that's what you're going there for. You go there and they're like, actually, can you shoot a few of the dishes? And then we have some rooms. I mean, this is all completely different equipment, completely different lighting. So always come prepared to be able to cover other things if needed. But don't bring everything, you know what I mean? Like your full kit to cover as you're shooting those as 3 separate things. So just be able to adapt. So, and also resourcefulness is probably the biggest asset you can have. You're going to forget something. You're going to miss something. You're going to be asked to do something you didn't know about. Just be prepared for anything and be able to tackle it. Make sure you have your resourcefulness.
TDUB, can you speak on discipline and how much discipline it takes to not just show up on time, show up a half an hour, 2 hours early? And this maybe pertains to light painting. You know, I always like to show up to the set or any location to honestly, in a spiritual aspect, grab some of that environment and integrate it and be able to actually express that in the art that's going to come forth. Can you speak on discipline and what it means for
in
a
Japan?
professional?
show up on time.
Yeah.
You told them a time, so if you show up early, you're in their way. You know what I mean?
Okay.
So I say show up on time.
Yeah.
And do what you say you're going to do. So don't oversell yourself and say I can do this and that and then fail to deliver. So just do what you say you're going to do, keep to your word, and show up on time is a big one. Another misconception is being a professional has nothing to do with your skill.
Mm.
Being professional means doing what you say you're going to do and showing up on time, giving professional paperwork or in terms of billing and that.
Okay.
This is be professional, not be a professional. Be professional and you'll be a professional. That's how you'll be seen. So this is, I think, a huge thing. There is no brand certificate to say I'm a professional photographer.
Yeah.
You want to be a professional photographer, act like one, and people will look at you like that.
Yes. Oh, you said it so well, my friend. Thank you. And it's like I said, it's something that I think a lot of artists struggle with. You know, I think a lot of people, just artists in general, are just a little bit maybe introverted in some ways, and so they're just like, you know, I'm not good enough, or I don't have the skills. And I think repetition obviously plays a lot of that, discipline. You know, showing up every day. You know, I try to touch my camera every day in one aspect or another, whether it's just one light painting and I just do something quick, or I do some free art or calligraphy or something. I try to touch my camera once a day, and I think that's a huge thing as far as that daily repetition.
Yeah. Put a little film camera in your pocket, like a little Lomo camera or something, and try and take a couple pictures a day. And because it's film and stuff, you'll be so careful about what you take. And then that'll, when you go back to digital, like, or when you'll start to really like sort of the thought process before you push the shutter will be different.
You know, and I love
that one frame every day or the 2 frames every day. What are you gonna spend it on?
Yes.
Right?
Oh man. Oh, you're speaking. So you're speaking to my heart, and I want to keep going with this because there's a lot of spirituality, I believe, in art, and I just received a pinhole camera on film, and it's an accordion one. I'm actually going to do some light painting on it, and it's something that I find maybe a little bit more spiritual working with film, because you know I don't want to manipulate my photos. You know, I try not to. I know I do a little bit of global adjustments, but I really try to keep the essence of the photo intact, and the essence of that photo, that moment, honestly, in that capture, and not say, okay, I'm gonna take away this or I screwed up this. It's like, no, that's what it is. And so can you speak on any, do you have spiritualism in your art, and do you feel that making, can you talk about it?
So one thing that I do with especially like stock shoots that are generally lifestyle oriented. Like last year, we were supposed to have the Olympics. So last year I shot a lot of female Paralympic athletes. And it's if there's not a tight turnaround, I pretend it's like a roll of film and I leave them on my computer and I don't touch them or look at them for a while. And then I develop my film. I get them back a month later. And that emotional attachment or any memory from the day has faded quite a bit. So maybe I had such a great day. It was fun meeting them when we chatted and we had laughs, and all that's in the back of your head when you're looking at the photos, that you'll see a photo that if someone else saw it's probably not that great, but you look at it different because it's attached to a memory you had from when you took it. So if you can detach those, I think you'll be able to look at your photos a little bit differently.
Yeah.
So I think it's, if there's no tight turnaround, and depending on what you're shooting, but it's okay to leave them and let them sit for a while, and then look at them a certain time later, and you'll see them differently than if you looked at them right away.
Yeah, no, I agree. And, you know, it's something that I use noise reduction. I often do very longer exposures than most. You know, I was taught from Chris Bauer. In fact, I get to, I don't know, I'm sure if you remember Chris Bauer, he certainly remembers you and he says hello. I get to spend a night with him tomorrow up in our neck of the woods here. And so, you know, one of the things he really taught me was to slow down and maybe not do 50 to 60 to 100 light paintings a night, maybe concentrate on 5 awesome images that do take multiple minutes, if not 15 minutes. And, a lot of his exposures are long, and he taught me that. And not only do we have to actually go through the light painting, but we actually wait on noise reduction. And I think that this pause of curating this, of not just rushing through something and actually taking some time and thought in the process of going through it, really, really builds that spiritual aspect, like you're talking about.
Yeah.
Dude, I know you mentioned the amazing athletes that you shot just now. Would you say, is there any other particular photo shoot that stands out that you'd like to tell us about?
I had a really good year for stock last year. Shot some big productions last year. Did a big shoot in a hospital. But last year, the Paralympics was a big highlight. Yeah. Being able to travel around Japan a lot and then meeting these people and hearing their stories, and they're pretty incredible.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, no, and to share their story with the world, and then obviously giving them the gift of the photos so they can remember their journey. And it's often like, oh, am I annoying somebody by taking their photo? And as a photographer, sometimes you feel a little bit invasive, but every single time afterwards, you give them that good photo, that candid shot that you really captured. They're super thankful, and so that's something as a beginner photographer such as myself, I have to kind of get over as far as am I invasive? Am I too invasive? Obviously,
you gotta just wipe those thoughts out of your head that you're there for a job.
Yeah.
And sometimes I just say it logically to them, like, so look, I'm here to capture you.
Yeah.
Let's just get it done. But whatever. I'm here for a few hours. That's all we have. So let's just do our best to make sure I make you look your best. And that's a bit of a hurdle though, for sure, especially with some sensitive topics that I cover sometimes. So that's my skill actually, is portraying people, is how to get people to get a natural expression out of someone, and they're not always a positive emotion, so you have to be able to put people in a space where you'll get a natural expression from someone, whether it's positive or negative or somber or whatever. That's what portraying someone is, right? So
it's just authentic and it's candid.
Yeah, it's a big skill.
That's the beautiful part about photography,
Yeah.
TDUB, if I were to tell you we don't take an image, we make an image, what does that tagline? It's from Ansel Adams. What does that mean to you?
Yeah, definitely. I definitely agree. Who was I speaking to a long time ago? It was someone in Europe, and their English was their second language. But they said to me, I'm going to make some photographs tonight. And it was just something that stuck with me. That it was just, that's exactly what we're going to do, is make some photographs. We're not, especially with light painting, because they are made, you know what I mean? There's a physical manufacturing to it.
No, I couldn't agree more. In fact, I want to take it even further and say that it's a performance. It's a mixture of body movement, because even if it's just your hand and your feet aren't moving, which I sometimes recommend, sometimes not. If your feet don't want to be in the shot, you got to keep moving. But it is a physical movement, and you are seen in that amount of exposure time. And so it's a very, very much mix of movement and light and technology and challenge and memory. Honestly, when you're actually in longer exposures, you have to kind of remember where you've done it, which can sometimes really spiral out of control if you get crazy.
Yeah. I was always admired the people that did it all solo, because we had 2 or 3 people. You always had one guy controlling the camera, with putting something in front of the lens so you can pull lights out and bring stuff in. And, there's some of those guys that were doing it all solo. That was a completely different game from what we were doing. You know what I mean?
Well, I can speak to that, because I often do light painting myself. I have a partner here. My girlfriend lives with me. She's my all-time model, if you want to say, like, all-time quarterback in football. She's always there to stand in, but often it's cold, or if it's winter, or the bugs are out, or you name it. She's got her own life, and so I try not to, take advantage of that if I don't have to, which has actually led me to doing more abstract art, and doing more things that just involve me and the camera and space and time. And so you don't always have to have a model. You can there's tons of other things to do in light painting from that. But I do get that.
By myself in the beginning, but it was wild animals and stuff that got me too skittish to go over my own. So then we started going out with 2 or 3, and then we found you could accomplish so much more if someone was there.
No, absolutely. Like you said, just even capping the lens, and for me, it's always, especially in the studio. I have a studio in my place here that I do have noise reduction on. It is kind of a parachute for me in a way, because I know that it's pitch black. I've got blackout curtains are surrounding me in a photo booth, if you will, in a studio. And so I know that if I take 45 extra seconds, there's no model there freezing or shivering or goosebumps. There's no bugs biting us. There's no moonlight blasting the image. It's just me sitting in the dark, and I can take those extra breaths. I can really calm down and be like, okay, cool. Now here's the second part of my image. Now here's the third part of my image. Here's the fourth final part that I can go to. And it really actually helps me have a slower tempo, and that's the one thing I'm working on this year, is actually slowing down my process, because I feel like when I was in the beginning, it was frenetic almost. I was like scribbling and like doing this instead of actually really concentrating on my circles, and precision is something I'm really trying to work on.
Zen, get in the zen.
The Zenergy. I'm working on Zenergy. Oh, TDUB, I love this conversation, man. I ask everyone on the show if you could actually add one song to the master Spotify playlist.
Oh yeah, I saw that.
One song would you add?
Something from the Northwest.
Okay.
A Vancouver group called Pigeonhole. Yeah. A song called Wolfpack.
Okay.
And it's energizing.
I love it. Well, I can't wait to listen to it. It's a very eclectic mix, just like our community is from all over the world. So you'll hear a bunch of different stuff. I often light paint it to it. And honestly, TDUB, when I hear that song from that artist in that episode, it takes me back, just like that photo takes you back right to those people, the subject that you were photoing. Yeah. The song takes me right back to you and I in this conversation. And so
put this on when you need a recharge. It'll it'll charge you.
Yeah. I love it. It's funny because some people really want that classical, ethereal, flowy stuff, and some people are really into the heavy metal, and some people are into the really heavy rap, and so it's an amazing mix.
This one particular song doesn't represent generally what I listen to.
Okay.
But it's just one of my recent jams, I guess.
It's a recharge. Yeah. I love it.
Another good song they have is called Bonfire. So if you're into a chill mood, very West Coast, a song called Bonfire.
Okay.
And this, I'll bet if you're on the West Coast, I don't think anyone on the West Coast that would not like it.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I'm definitely from the West Coast. I've lived here all my life, and I'm very proud of that. And I love it. Oh, TDUB, man, it's been great. One final question for you, man. What kind of advice, or what advice would you give the younger members of this light painting community that are just getting into it? You've got so much expertise, you've got so much knowledge in photography, but light painting specifically, what would you give? What would you teach them? What would you tell them?
I would say you can't ever fail. Just do it. Just always do it. And there's never a bad picture. And art is subjective, and if you enjoy it, do it. I just don't let anyone tell you what you did is not right or incorrect. It's just it's do what you want to do. Yeah, it's yours.
Yeah, no, I couldn't agree more, man. I often hear this, or I see comments. I like you. I mainly browse versus post. I used to post a lot, and now I'm more of browsing just to kind of keep my eye on what's going on. And I see some comments like, "Oh, I wish I would have done this better," and it was from the artist himself. It's actually them saying about it, or in the description, they're like, "I love this image, but this," and it's always like, well, and often I feel like that too. I think it's something naturally that is a hurdle, like you said, or a challenge that we need to get over. But I do think
Yeah, I mean,
do
I
your
struggle with that too. That
Yeah.
you end up redoing it and redoing it and redoing it and redoing it and redoing it, and you spend 6 hours, you get one picture,
Yeah.
and then you look at them later and you're like, I should have just left it. It was the most organic, the first time. So,
Actually, that's a good question. Do you think that most of is sometimes the first idea, that idea that's been generating and you've been visualizing it all day,
Yeah.
or and you come out and you just you nail it, you execute it, and then you try to replicate it because there's one little thing wrong, and it's just like
yeah, it just becomes more mechanical the more times you repeat it, right?
yeah, it does.
But I mean, if it's a sloppy mistake, like you forgot to shut a light off and you dragged it out of the frame, or like something like that, you'd redo it. But generally, the more times you have to redo it, it just becomes more mechanical looking.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I couldn't agree more, man. Let's keep it organic. Let's keep it
Yeah.
fresh. TDUB, I think we're gonna wrap this episode.
Cool.
Would love to have you back. It's been a huge
Yeah.
honor for me to talk to someone
Yeah,
and
it's been great.
what I would consider the old regime of light painting, with vast knowledge and vast expertise. I mean, we have to respect some of the older people of the community, not older in age, but older in just years of doing it. You've been light painting longer than I've even had a camera. And so to have this sit down, to have this time together has been quite the honor. I can't say thank you enough. I'd love to have you back on the show. We can find your work. Facebook is Trevor Williams. Instagram is TDUB Photo, and I'll put those links right here.
And TDUBphoto.com is the website, which is a lot of just general content.
I love it, man. Well, I wish you all the luck in the world. Again, I can't say thanks enough for joining me on this podcast. I'd love to have you back sometime.
Cool. Yeah.
It's been quite the honor, man. Thank you.
Cool. Thanks a lot. Have a good one.
See ya.
Cheers.